Hey, Madison, I'm here at school trying to take advantage of the internet. I just wanted to reach out to you and talk about your impromptu speech there. Uh, so I know this is, it's difficult, it's challenging, it's different. I'm just going to give you kind of some feedback. More of it's going to be focused on content, and less of it on I guess, the delivery. Introduction is good. Your tone is good. We've been talking kind of about the same mechanical things. One thing, just keep smiling, even though we're on a video. We want to make sure we're smiling. Um, when we get to the layout, I think I would start with FSH and the superovulation bit because that feeds ET and then it feeds into synchronization, which is what we do for breeding. Okay. So focus more on the hormone side on this one and reach out to Katie because in her dairy hormone speech, she talks about FSH, and I think the way she structures it is pretty flawless. But I would focus more on FSH and then talk about how the result of that is superovulation. From there, I would move into talking about embryo transfer, but I don't think I'd list the points. I think I would talk about what embryo transfer is, so the mechanical process of this, and how if we administer FSH, we're going to cause superovulation. Then when we flush these females, those donors, with the saline solution, we're going to increase the eggs. One thing you might talk about, you went into traits on the donor cows, and then it was kind of clumsy, I guess, for lack of a better term. So tell me what I want to see in a female. What makes that female good? And it can be genetic things like on that EPD, maternal milk, or it can be calving ease, or it can be any number of those things. But then physically, what things do I really like about this female? So what makes the best cow? And that might take a little bit of research on your end. And then talk about how we're going to remove these eggs from the female. We're going to flush them out, physically flush them with a saline solution uh, from her ovaries, and then we're going to perform a collection, and then from there they're going to be evaluated. So try and clean that up, because when you said I'm going to talk about superovulation is a thing, and we're going to talk about it later, and then you talk about it, it's really hard to follow. Okay, so FSH, superovulation, let that transition into flushing and embryo transfer, and then you can refer back to superovulation. Okay. And then synchronization. I think you've got to lead out synchronization with CEDARs. So tell me about synchronization, what it is. And, the purpose is we can determine exactly when we want these females to cycle. And the reason being, it might be easier for breeding. Perhaps we've got a guy who's coming to do the breeding for us, or we want calves on a certain day because, like you all, everybody works off the farm, so I can select what day these calves are born, and then we can synchronize. So we implant the CEDAR. The CEDAR actually tricks a female into thinking that she's pregnant. When we remove the CEDAR, she goes into what's called in the horse industry a milk heat, which means that she is going to ovulate. And the reason the reason horses ovulate is because it takes 11 months for them to have a foal. Cattle, humans, they typically do the same thing. But when they give birth, they do cycle. And then we can settle that pregnancy using progesterone, which is commonly administered as PG 600. And I think that will kind of structure it. So you start with the superovulation, you move into the embryo transfer side of it, and then you can talk about how these embryos are fertilized during synchronization. So do a little bit of research on that, and if you want to attempt it again, I think that would be good. And reach out to Katie because she's going to be a really good resource. She does a good job with hers. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to text me.